So while the high valuation growth stocks sell off, mega cap names, they're still on a roll. But John, you told us earlier this week that you actually sold out of Meta.
Yeah, I did. The former Facebook on Monday, Frank, when there was some, I guess, enough activity in Riven and a couple others that they actually got a hold of me at the airport. So I came in and did a quick hit on there. Meta had traded back up, Frank, into the 355 or higher range. And I was so happy to get out of the rest of my Meta up there. So I dumped out of that and I bought calls. My calls are out in January. I replaced that. I rolled down that Riven because Jim Lebenthal. I don't know how I'd ever confuse you two.
But me neither. I'm insulted. Yeah.
You should be.
John, I don't own a single pair of khakis, just for the record.
Okay. Well, and we know Farmer Jim has a bunch of them. But nonetheless, Jim made a great trade on Rivian on the put side and jumped on that. I rolled my Rivian call spread down, Frank, to the 120, 150. So, yeah, lightening up on some of these names, in particular, out of the stock, Frank, and into call spreads that have a lot less risk attached.
All right, well, speaking of you, not Farmer Jim, but you do own Meta Platforms. You also own Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, and Alphabet. So you're big into FANG. Are you still bullish on it?
I am. Look, to me, they're compounders. I haven't touched most of them. The only one I've actually sold down and traded around is Meta. And, I'm looking to exit. I think it moves up higher. We're seeing some of the bad press dissipate, and that's typically when the stock lifts. I'm actually surprised it traded lower, earlier in the week and the end of last week. But I'll be getting out of it. It's just too much FANG exposure at this point. But I agree with Joe's point that you're going to see more money come into these names as they come out of the high flyers and as you have really sure growth at what I think are very reasonable prices.
Jenny, over to you. You mentioned this a short time ago that, in your opinion, Meta is double-digit growth for revenues every year. Any concerns about some of the transition of the company, also regulatory fears? Is that something that could impact the stock?
The transition, no. Regulatory fears always, but I think that's such a long-dated threat and, frankly, such a difficult to enact threat that we're actually not working it in to our valuation assumptions. So it's something that always lurks in the back of my head, but it also lurks in the back of my head for Google, for Apple, for pretty much all the big, huge tech companies. So, yeah, not in our assumptions, but definitely in our mind.